poor single mom helped a woman who collapsed. She woke up in a mansion the next morning. The scorching August heat in Phoenix, Arizona was unforgiving as 26-year-old Sarah Mitchell hurried down Central Avenue with her 4-year-old daughter, Emma's small hand clasped tightly in hers. Sarah's blonde hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and despite the exhaustion evident in her blue eyes, she possessed a natural beauty that poverty couldn't diminish. Her simple sundress and worn sandals told the story of someone making every dollar stretch as far as possible. "Mommy, I'm hot," Emma whined, her golden curls sticking to her forehead with perspiration. The little girl was a miniature version of her mother, with the same striking blue eyes and delicate features. "I know, sweetheart. Just a few more blocks to the bus stop, and then we'll be in the air conditioning," Sarah said, though she knew the bus ride to her second job would be anything but comfortable in this heat. Sarah worked as a cashier at a grocery store during the day and cleaned offices at night, barely making enough to cover their tiny studio apartment and basic necessities. Today had been particularly brutal, 8 hours on her feet in a store with broken air conditioning, followed by a frantic rush to pick up Emma from the community daycare center. As they approached the bus stop, Sarah noticed a woman about 50 feet ahead of them, stumbling slightly. The woman appeared to be in her early 50s, with perfectly styled silver hair and wearing an elegant cream-colored suit that looked completely out of place on this sweltering city street. Even from a distance, Sarah could see that something was wrong. Suddenly, the woman collapsed to the sidewalk. "Mommy!" Emma gasped. Without hesitation, Sarah scooped Emma up and rushed toward the fallen woman. "Call 911. She shouted to a few passersby who had stopped to stare but seemed frozen in uncertainty. The woman was unconscious, her face pale and her breathing shallow. Sarah gently rolled her into the recovery position, something she'd learned in the basic first aid course she'd taken when Emma was born, one of the few luxuries she'd allowed herself back when Emma's father was still around and money wasn't quite so tight. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" Sarah said softly, checking the woman's pulse, while shielding her from the direct sunlight with her own body. The woman's skin was cool and clammy despite the heat, and Sarah recognized the signs of heat exhaustion. "Is there water?" Sarah called out to the growing crowd of onlookers. A teenager handed her a bottle of water, and Sarah carefully dampened the woman's forehead and wrists, trying to cool her down. "Mommy, is the lady okay?" Emma asked quietly, staying close but not interfering as Sarah had taught her. "I'm trying to help her feel better, baby." The woman's eyelids fluttered, and she began to regain consciousness just as the paramedics arrived. What happened?" she whispered, her voice cultured and refined even in her disoriented state. "You collapsed from the heat," Sarah explained gently. "The paramedics are here now. You're going to be okay." As the paramedics took over, Sarah stepped back, still holding Emma. She watched as they checked the woman's vital signs and prepared to transport her to the hospital. "Wait," the woman called out weakly, her green eyes searching the crowd until they found Sarah. You helped me." "Anyone would have done the same thing," Sarah replied. Though they both knew that wasn't entirely true, several people had walked past before Sarah arrived. "What's your name?" the woman asked. Sarah Mitchell. "And this is my daughter Emma." The woman studied Sarah's face intently, as if memorizing it. "Thank you, Sarah. I won't forget this." The paramedics lifted the woman onto a stretcher, and as they wheeled her toward the ambulance, Sarah heard one of them mention something about severe dehydration and heat stroke. "Will she be okay?" Sarah asked one of the paramedics. "She should be fine, thanks to you getting to her so quickly. Heat stroke can be serious if not treated immediately." As the ambulance drove away, Sarah realized she'd missed her bus. The next one wouldn't come for another hour, which meant she'd be late for her cleaning job. She couldn't afford to lose that position, not when Emma needed new shoes for preschool and the electric bill was already overdue. "Mommy, you did a good thing," Emma said, tugging on Sarah's dress. "I hope so, sweetheart." The evening shift at the office building was even more exhausting than usual. Sarah's supervisor, Mr. Rodriguez, wasn't pleased about her tardiness, and she found herself rushing through her cleaning duties while Emma napped in the break room. By the time they finally got home at 11 p.m., Sarah was running on pure adrenaline and determination. Their studio apartment was tiny but clean, with a Murphy bed that Sarah pulled down from the wall each night. Emma's toys were neatly organized in plastic bins, and Sarah had done her best to make the small space feel like home with colorful drawings Emma had made and a few photographs from happier times. "Mommy, I'm hungry," Emma said as Sarah unlocked their door. Sarah checked the refrigerator and found the makings for peanut butter sandwiches, their dinner more often than she cared to admit. As she prepared Emma's sandwich, she felt a wave of dizziness wash over her. She'd been so focused on helping the woman earlier that she'd forgotten to eat lunch, and the combination of heat, stress, and exhaustion was taking its toll. "Here you go, baby," she said, setting the sandwich in front of Emma at their small table. But as she turned to make her own, the room began to spin. Sarah gripped the edge of the counter, trying to steady herself, but the dizziness intensified. She could hear Emma calling her name, but the sound seemed to come from very far away. The last thing she remembered was the feeling of falling and Emma's frightened voice calling Mommy. When Sarah opened her eyes, sunshine was streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, and she was lying in the most comfortable bed she'd ever experienced. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming. The room around her was opulent beyond anything she'd ever seen. Cream-colored walls, elegant furniture, and artwork that looked like it belonged in a museum. Sarah sat up quickly, panic flooding through her. "Emma," she called out, her voice echoing in the spacious room. "She's perfectly safe," came a familiar voice from the doorway. Sarah turned to see the woman from the street, the one who had collapsed, but now she looked completely different. Gone was the distressed, overheated woman from yesterday. Instead, she stood poised and elegant in a silk robe, her silver hair styled perfectly, and her green eyes bright and alert. "Where am I? Where's my daughter?" Sarah demanded, though she kept her voice controlled. "Your daughter is having breakfast with my housekeeper, Maria, and you're in my home." The woman stepped into the room with a warm smile. "I'm Victoria Ashford. And you, my dear, saved my life yesterday." Sarah's mind raced as she tried to process what was happening. "How did I get here?" "The last thing I remember, you collapsed in your apartment from exhaustion. Your daughter called 911 like the smart little girl she is. When the paramedics arrived, they found my business card in your pocket. You must have picked it up when it fell from my purse yesterday. They called the number, which goes directly to my personal assistant." Victoria moved to a chair near the bed, her movements graceful and refined. "I had you brought here instead of the hospital. My personal physician examined you. Severe dehydration and exhaustion. Nothing that good food, rest, and care can't fix." "I need to see Emma," Sarah said, starting to get out of bed. "Of course, but first, let me explain why you're here." Sarah paused, though every instinct told her to find her daughter immediately. "Yesterday, when I collapsed on that street, I was walking back from a meeting that had gone very badly. I just learned that someone I trusted had been embezzling from one of my charitable foundations. I was angry, disappointed, and frankly, I'd lost faith in people. The heat just made everything worse." Victoria's expression grew soft. "And then, you appeared. A woman who was clearly struggling herself, rushing to catch a bus with her child, and yet your first instinct when you saw a stranger in need was to help. No hesitation, no calculation of what you might gain, just pure compassion. Anyone would have." "No, Sarah, they wouldn't have. I watched people walk past me before you arrived. I've spent years surrounded by people who only help when there's something in it for them. But you helped because it was right. Victoria stood and walked to the window, gazing out at what Sarah could now see was an extensive garden. "Do you know who I am, Sarah?" "You said Victoria Ashford." "I'm the founder and CEO of Ashford Industries. Perhaps you've heard of us?" Sarah's eyes widened. Even she knew that name. Ashford Industries was one of the largest corporations in Arizona, with interests in everything from real estate to technology. "I don't understand. Why am I here?" Victoria turned back to face her, and Sarah could see something that looked like hope in her green eyes. "Because I want to offer you something. A chance to change your life and Emma's life forever." An hour later, Sarah sat at an elegant breakfast table on Victoria's terrace, watching Emma chat animatedly with Maria, a warm-hearted woman in her 60s who spoke to the little girl in both English and Spanish. Emma was clearly enchanted by the swimming pool, the peacocks wandering the garden, and the elaborate breakfast spread that included more food than Sarah usually bought in a week. "Mommy, look, there are real peacocks," Emma exclaimed, pointing to the colorful birds strutting across the manicured lawn. "I see them, sweetheart. They're beautiful." Victoria joined them at the table, and Sarah couldn't help but notice how naturally she interacted with Emma, not talking down to her like many adults did, but engaging with genuine interest in what the child had to say. "Emma tells me she wants to be a veterinarian when she grows up," Victoria said, spreading jam on a croissant with elegant precision. "She loves animals," Sarah confirmed, though the words came out strained. The opulence surrounding them was overwhelming, and she couldn't shake the feeling that this was all too good to be true. A noble profession. We need more people who dedicate their lives to caring for others, whether human or animal. After breakfast, Victoria suggested that Emma explore the garden with Maria while she and Sarah talked privately. They moved to Victoria's study, a sophisticated room lined with leather-bound books and dominated by a massive mahogany desk. "Sarah, I want to be direct with you," Victoria began, settling into a chair across from the sofa where Sarah sat. "Yesterday, you showed me something I'd almost given up on finding: genuine human goodness. In return, I want to offer you an opportunity that could change everything for you and Emma." Sarah listened carefully, her hands folded in her lap. "I need someone to run a new division of my company, the Ashford Foundation for Family Services. It would focus on helping single parents achieve stability and independence. The person I hire would need to understand the challenges firsthand, have natural empathy, and possess the kind of integrity that can't be taught. Mrs. Ashford, I appreciate what you're saying, but I don't have any experience running anything. I'm a cashier and a cleaning lady. You're a woman who's kept herself and her daughter safe-fed and housed while working multiple jobs and maintaining your dignity and kindness. You've managed resources that most executives couldn't stretch as far as you do. And most importantly, you've proven that when you see someone in need, your instinct is to help." Victoria leaned forward slightly. The position would pay $120,000 a year, plus full benefits and housing assistance. But more than that, you'd be helping hundreds of families like yours. Sarah felt dizzy again, but this time it wasn't from exhaustion. That's more money than I've ever imagined making. It's what the job is worth, and what you're worth." Victoria's voice was firm. "This isn't charity, Sarah. This is me recognizing talent and character when I see it." "But why me? You could hire anyone, someone with a college degree, business experience. I could hire someone with credentials, yes, but I can't hire someone with your heart, your understanding of struggle, or your proven integrity. Those things can't be taught or bought." Sarah was quiet for a long moment, processing the magnitude of what was being offered. "What exactly would I be doing?" "You'd oversee programs that help single parents with everything from job training to childcare assistance, from financial literacy to housing support. You'd work with a team of professionals, but you'd be the one making the decisions about how to best serve the people who need help. And Emma?" Victoria's face lit up. Emma would attend the best private school in Phoenix, with full tuition paid by the foundation. She'd have access to every opportunity: music lessons, sports, tutoring, whatever she needs to thrive. Sarah felt tears building in her eyes. It was everything she'd ever dreamed of for her daughter, but it felt impossible to believe it was real. "There's one more thing," Victoria continued. "The position comes with a house. I own several properties, and there's a beautiful home in Scottsdale that's been sitting empty. 4 bedrooms, a yard where Emma can play, in a neighborhood with excellent schools. Victoria, this is incredibly generous, but I have to ask, what do you get out of this?" Victoria was quiet for a moment, her gaze distant. "I never had children. Sarah, I built an empire, but I never built a family. When I saw you with Emma yesterday, the way you protected her, cared for her, taught her to be kind, it reminded me what really matters in life." She stood and walked to the window, looking out at the garden where Emma was laughing as she chased butterflies with Maria watching nearby. "I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes, but I've never felt as rich as you looked yesterday. When Emma told you that you did a good thing, I want to be part of something meaningful, something that creates the kind of family bonds I see between you two." Sarah wiped away a tear that had escaped down her cheek. "I don't know what to say." "Say, you'll consider it. Take some time to think about it. But Sarah, please don't let pride or fear keep you from something that could be wonderful for all of us." 3 days later, Sarah signed the contract that would transform her life. Within a week, she and Emma had moved into the house in Scottsdale. A beautiful Spanish-style home with a pool, a garden, and enough space for Emma to have her own playroom. Emma's new school was everything Victoria had promised. For the first time in her young life, Emma had access to art classes, music lessons, and a library that seemed magical to a little girl who had previously owned only a handful of books. But the most remarkable change was in Sarah herself, working. At the Ashford Foundation, she discovered talents she never knew she possessed. Her natural empathy, combined with her first-hand understanding of struggle, made her incredibly effective at connecting with the families they served. 6 months later, Sarah stood before the board of directors presenting the foundation's first quarterly report. Under her leadership, they had helped over 200 families achieve stability, and the program was being held up as a model for other cities. "The key to our success," Sarah explained to the board, "is understanding that these families don't need charity, they need opportunity. They need someone to believe in them and give them the tools to build better lives." After the meeting, Victoria approached her with a proud smile. "How does it feel to know you've changed so many lives?" "It feels like coming home," Sarah replied. "Like everything I went through was preparing me for this." "You know what the best part is?" Victoria asked. "What's that?" "Yesterday, Emma told me she wants to grow up to be just like her mommy, someone who helps people." "You're not just changing lives now, Sarah. You're raising the next generation of people who will make the world better." That evening, as Sarah tucked Emma into her canopy bed in their beautiful home, Emma looked up at her with those bright blue eyes. "Mommy, are you happy?" "Very happy, sweetheart. Are you?" "Yes, but Mommy, what is it?" "I'm glad you helped the nice lady when she fell down, because now we get to help lots of families, and Aunt Victoria is part of our family too." Sarah kissed her daughter's forehead, marveling at the wisdom that came from children's innocent hearts. "What did I always tell you about helping people? That it's the right thing to do, even when it's hard," Emma recited sleepily. "That's right. And sometimes, when we help others without expecting anything back, the universe gives us gifts we never could have imagined." As she turned off the lights and headed to her own room, Sarah reflected on how dramatically her life had changed. One moment of compassion, helping a stranger who had collapsed on a hot street, had opened doors she never knew existed. Sometimes the most important decisions we make happen in an instant, when we choose compassion over convenience, kindness over indifference, And sometimes, when we save someone else, we end up saving ourselves in ways we never expected. The woman who had woken up in a mansion that morning 6 months ago had been transformed not just by wealth, but by purpose. And in return, she was transforming the lives of countless others, one family at a time. The end.
Thank you for watching this story unfold with us here on M&A The Story Unfolds. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new tale. We'd love to know where you're watching. Leave a comment below and tell us what part of the world you're joining us from. Your support means everything. See you in the next story.